So we're going to start with a very, very serious topic. We wanted to go ahead and handle this and handle it properly. So what are we talking about?
We're going to talk about exploring mental health in video games.
Right. So we couldn't have done this years ago.
No.
No, couldn't have been done. And the article that I'm going to start off with, we're not actually going to read the articles. We'll just link them in the description.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit about this. And this article is written about Psychonauts 2.
Right.
The mental health approach handling with care. What the basics of this article is, it's written on GameIndustry.biz, is how Psychonauts 2, well, like the original, handles the concept of mental health. And the reason we're saying covering this with care is because mental health has always been a bit of a stigma amongst the entirety of the human history. Back in the day, people used to be put in crib cages and locks and were straitjackets and padded cells. I mean, all that stuff you see in horror movies, that was a reality.
Yeah, you were locked away.
Yeah.
It was considered a thing of shame.
Right.
And we have come so far away from that, and I'm really glad that we're having articles like this.
Right.
And games like this to explore mental health, and we've taken it out of the closet.
Yes. We're no longer acting like it is a stigma that nobody talks about. We're giving it the light that we're supposed to, because mental health is health.
Yes, it is. It's health.
There is no difference between something that is wrong with the brain than something that is wrong with the liver or the gallbladder. They are all organs of the body.
Yep.
We may understand the brain the least out of pretty much every other organ out there, but that doesn't mean that it's not relevant. So if the brain has got a sickness to it, whatever that is, it's going to cause some kind of a problem, and people just wanted to shunt that off, and these games aren't doing that.
No, they're not. They're exploring it.
Yeah. So like so Psychonauts, if you don't know anything about that, those games, it's an action platformer, and the levels are indicative of the mental characteristics, physical representation of someone's mind.
Right.
And it says so right here. Things like fear, anxiety, other complications, depression, etc., etc. And I'll let you go ahead and talk in a second. But the beautiful thing about this, and we'll talk about Gestalt theory in a second, is that you can have these different things like anxiety and fear, phobias, depression, paranoia, just about anything, and you can have it be representative, and that is what this Psychonauts game is doing. They bring up the whole thing of a bear or a scary forest, but that is the metaphorical simulation of something. So like, for example, a anxiety could be a bunch of little creatures with really sharp teeth that chase you and bit by bit chomp you to pieces, because that's what anxiety does. Bit by bit, it chomps at you. And these games like Psychonauts are doing that. They're taking these concepts and turning them into metaphors with a physical representation that the player can relate to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Burke says, the channel Hello Future Me actually discussed the topics of mental health and narrative and how hard that is. And that is just in a non-interactive medium. Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot more, not just studies, but interactions like these channels and these games that are drawing out the mental health and how important it is, and yet it's an interesting deep dive too into something that we don't know a whole lot about, to be honest with you.
Well,
as Steele said,
right.
We're still learning things to this day. Have big breakthroughs in finding issues and diagnosing problems.
Well, right. We can treat a lot of mental. I'm going to use the word disorder because that's just a common parlance, but there's not always disorders. It could be anything. No. But for the sake of conversation, we're going to call them mental disorders. A mental disorder, most of those we don't really understand the root cause, other than perhaps trauma. That's what psychotherapy can help bring out. But we can treat them, and we can treat the symptoms. So it's like, for example, if someone is suffering from anxiety, that anxiety may be from a number of different reasons. It may be a chemical imbalance in the brain. It may be a trauma they suffered. It may be that they're going through a hard time at that moment. It could be a combination of all three. we can't actually treat those disorders. We can't actually treat it. We treat the symptoms. So to kind of bring it back here to what Burke was saying is that in overall, it's been way too easy in the past in any works of narrative, any fiction at all, to just kind of say that, they're crazy people. Like, let's bring up the Joker.
Yeah.
Absolutely quote unquote batshit insane villain. Well, it's easy to have a character in any game or any movie or any book, etc., that's just crazy.
Right.
And that is a very unfair label that is becoming, in my opinion, a bit lazy. It's really easy to have the crazy character.
Right.
Well, what about them is crazy? And, as we kind of get into the rest of these articles, especially when we get to the games themselves that talk about these different mental disorders and how they're representative, I want you as developers to think about how you would represent a character with some sort of mental health, maybe not even necessarily issue, just mental health situation. And, you want to do it the same way that you would do anything else that's considered touch and go. Don't make it the focus. It can be the focus of the narrative,
right?
But not the focus of the character. People are not defined just by their mental health.
Right.
They are affected by it. It's a part of them.
And see, what's neat about this, going back to the Psychonauts games, is that you're not playing a character that has a mental health issue.
Right.
You're playing a little sprite that's going through other people and seeing what's affecting them.
Right.
And you look at it, it is very metaphorical. It is absolutely metaphorical. And in a way, these type of games can actually help lead discussions, I feel, in what is bothering someone.
Well, they absolutely should. They absolutely should. If a person has a mental health issue and they're able to identify with a character in a game, that person should not be ashamed to talk about it to someone, a friend, a family member, a loved one. And these games like Psychonauts may help them to understand, hey, this is what's happening to me.
Yeah.
I identify with this level.
Yeah. And you also get a good look into something you may not really understand.
Right.
Here's a quote from the developer. I really like it. He says, "You can't help but have empathy, I think. Once you're inside someone else's mind, seeing the world through their eyes and seeing what they're struggling with. It's that basic good advice you get, hopefully, when you're younger, which is to be kind to people, because you never know what they're going through."
That's right. People all go through different things.
Yeah, they do.
And what I love about this article is it shows that the developers of the Psychonauts series 1 and 2 are taking that into account.
Yes, they are.
So, and we see you, Chaos. Welcome to the stream.
Hey, Chaos.
So, what I want all of you in the live chat, as well as all who are watching in VOD, to kind of take a moment. We do a lot of these game forums, do a lot of these conversations talking about various pieces of game development, whether it be the industry or techniques or whatnot. But I want you all to just take a moment and just kind of think for a second. If you could show someone else what is happening inside of the mind of the character, whether it be your mind through a metaphor or something you feel about very strongly. Like, let's say that you feel very strongly about depression because you have family members who have gone through it, or someone who has bipolar disorder, and you wanted to take that and put it in a way, not that person in real life, but a way for the player to experience it. How would you do it? Hopefully the answer is elegantly and with respect, but also not shying away from it, because as long as you're ignoring it, it's the same as if you're making fun of it.
Exactly. So guys, what do you, I just want to throw this out there. Is this the type of game that you would want to get on with?
Yeah. Would you play Psychonauts?
Would you play it? Would you develop something like this?
Yeah.
And but what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think about these types of games?
Yeah.